the cool thing about these sketchbooks is they're like little markers in time for me. I can open up any of these sketchbooks from throughout the year and really remember what I was doing with my life at that point, what was happening, where I was living, where I was working, what my relationships were like. So it does kind of become like your own little autobiography in a sense. I'm going to go through some of these things and just talk about some of the things that I draw, and how I generate images and what my overall sort of thought process is. A lot of times when I start drawing these things, it's just with simple mark making. I love to doodle. All right, that's something that I think that everybody has the ability to do, is just sketch out, loosely sketch things, and then I like to see what they can become. A lot of times they end up having sort of like a landscape orientation. Okay, this feels like some sort of almost like an abstract cityscape. All right, I like to have long, flowing lines. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit later about how different line work can sort of generate either levels of excitement or a calmness or even anxiety sometimes, or if you're feeling anxiety, how you can use certain marks to express that. Different subject matter comes up in my work. I've done a lot of, for some reason, flowers were something I was doing for a really long time. This is kind of fun. This is a sketchbook I had when I was teaching elementary school in New York City, and I would have it out when I was greeting the students in the morning and sketch pictures. And sometimes I'd let the students make little drawings. This is a drawing that Ryan made when he was about a 5 or 6 year old. These little weird little cube stacks I like to do, like things nestled with each other, kind of contour lines. If any of you guys have ever done any contour line drawing, and they just become like little weird characters too. I like to sort of give them these sort of faces, or they kind of read like eyes, and they pile up on each other. And then sometimes they have these sort of tentacles that stick out. Here's something that pencil drawing that, again, sort of like a landscape. You can see a lot of horizon lines in my work, but then I do these strange sort of like bulbous, like architectural details. Again, sort of more meditations on flowers. And of course, I'm not looking at anything when I do these. Sometimes I draw from life. I draw from life more now than I did for a long time. But these are just sort of straight out of my head. And, you can see I do a lot of repetitive mark making too, where I pick a mark and I just repeat it over and over again. And there's a lot of, there's a very meditative quality to that. You can see here that I have lists of things that are going on in my life, like a show that I have to hang. So it's like, okay, the things I need to do to get that done, right? Arrows is something else that I've really played around with. Again, we have another sort of like landscape orientation, a horizon line, sort of a mountainscape with this projectile coming up. And then they almost read sort of like trees up here. I really like stuff that is open to different kinds of interpretation. Just loose doodling, throwing in a little bit of color. I think this is another one of the students' drawings that they made in there. More lists. We'll get into some different colors. I kind of like this idea of like rocks and bedrock, and the idea of like layers of time, the way it gets compressed, things you would learn in some of your science classes when you're thinking about learning about geology and the earth. And I tend to do like a lot of drawings that sort of, echo that or reference that. Little balloons here. Who knows what this is? I think I was reading about how the Native Americans would plant fish underneath their crops. They would, put a dead fish underneath their crops to help them grow as fertilizer. So I guess I needed to sketch that out. I switch between pen and pencil a lot. Okay, it's just interesting. Icebergs at midnight. I wrote down there for some reason. Maybe I used to ask my students what they thought the different drawings were, and they would give me their impressions or the title of it. Okay, but a lot of this is like nonsense. It starts off just with quick mark making. Like I do a lot of stuff where, I just do sketchy line work, or I just take a pencil and I'll just kind of do a bunch of lines like this and then let that stack on top of itself. All right. And then that's kind of how it starts here. And then again, playing around with, again, landscape, but these bubble shapes. Okay. The point of this is like, I don't know where these drawings are going. They lead, I get led around by the drawings themselves. The drawings teach me what they want to be. I don't necessarily always force that. A lot of times when I try to force a work of art, something vision I have in my brain, it kind of turns out terrible, to be honest with you. But when I just let my imagination go, really kind of wonderful things come out of it. And again, this isn't, look at this. This is just silliness. It's just scribbling to some extent. But then, you get the sense there's starts to be like a figure that comes in here and some little details over here. More balloons. So it's like you can tell, and I'm gonna kind of pop through a couple of these different books so you can see the themes that come up. I don't know why I was thinking about balloons, but and then they almost become like characters in a way. And I've drawn some of these things so many times that they have almost a personality to me. And not that I necessarily name them, but they come back and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. I'm sort of talking to myself. Flowers being another one, and it's just like an abstract impersonation of a flower. I'm not trying to impress anyone, not even trying to impress myself. More balloons, kind of like a weird balloon animal almost. Some flowers, some notes. Sometimes they become hybrids of things. They almost feel like weird bunny rabbit, like flowers, but sort of bunny rabbits tied together. Who knows? Cool landscapey thing. I like to do a lot of stuff with positive and negative space. If you took art class with me, you know what that is, but where it's not a lot of detail necessarily, but you just have the positive space where the image, and the negative space in this case would be the black area. And it's a kind of a nice way you can build interesting, strong compositions, kind of like exploding flowers. Just like a weird horse on a wall. Who knows? Who knows what I was thinking? I do like architectural drawings too, or like planning out and kind of maybe build a cabin this summer. So I like to make lots of little sketches of like plans for what that could be. A lot of my mark making is very, very organic. It's not very geometric. I do shift around, and sort of like my general hypothesis about image making changes over time. Kind of nice to see me get some color in there. I don't always do a lot with color. I'm trying to do a lot more so these days, but then I don't know, some kind of weird boat with arrows coming out of the back of it. Another landscape thing, some kind of like strange robot character. I like to do a lot of little compositional sketches too. So rather than like trying to make like some kind of finished thing, and just like these are just quick little thumbnail sketches of general compositional ideas that I could use for some of my larger projects later on. Again, flowers and arrows. Some kind of weird sort of robotic man. Strange people, a guy with a flower growing out of his head. Sort of agitated flowers. You can see some of my line work. This has that smooth, calm feeling to it, but you get these agitated lines in here, and that's, kind of has a more anxious quality to it. So again, if that can either, be good if you're in that state of mind to actually like express your emotional state through the kind of marks that you make. Okay. If I was in a really happy, sort of calm state, I probably wouldn't draw like this, but I suspect that day I was feeling some kind of edginess, some ribs. Some boats. I like to do weird things with boats too. A little bit more color in there too.